Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to cross the Øresund once again, and we're going to go back to Copenhagen in Denmark and revisit a brewery who I only introduced you to here on the channel for the first time a couple of months back. I believe it was March or so that I reviewed my first beer from them. And these guys are very new on the scene. They're doing some very nice beers, and I really enjoyed the last one that I had from them. So curious to see what this one has in store for us today. For this review then, we are going to go to Amager in the south of the city. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Caleidoskope Brewing Company. So this one is called the Orange Dots. It comes in at 7.5% ABV, and this one is another New England style hazy IPA. So yeah, really curious to see how this beer turns out. As I said, the last beer that I reviewed from these guys was back in March or so, and that was called the Purple Amalgam. I wanted to get this one as well at the same time, but unfortunately it sold out on the web shop, so that wasn't to be, sadly. But yeah, we've got it now, and I got this one on Black Friday because Glassbanking had the free postage actually. But definitely cool to return to these guys. If you've watched the channel before, you will know that I'm a sucker for orangey leaning IPAs, and we've got a very orangey hop profile in this one actually. So very curious to see what this one has in store for us, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well then. So yeah, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Caleidoskope Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more from that list in the fairly near future. We do have one more beer to review at the moment, which you'll see quite soon, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly because I am very close to Denmark here in Skåne, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Caleidoskope Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've said to you already, Caleidoskope Brewing Company are based in Amager in the south of Copenhagen, and this is basically the brewing project of the owners of Petersbar, which is right in the centre of the city. So the four men behind the company are Jonas Kobero, Rasmus Roskvist, Anders Ising, and also Brian Madsen, and they opened the Petersbar together back in December of 2016, and this is known to be quite a good beer bar in central Copenhagen. I will need to go and check that out at some point actually. I'm quite curious about that. But these guys, the brewery itself, as I mentioned to you, can be found in Amager. And at the brewery they currently have a 500 litre brew house with 2,000 litre fermentation capacity, so it is still a very small operation. But Anders and Brian are the two brewers, and Anders actually studied at the Scandinavian Brewing School, part of Copenhagen University, and as of December 2020, when I'm reviewing these beers for you, they've produced around 22 different beers so far, according to Untappd. Apparently the name Caleidoskope is taken because they say that they're playing with a combination of different ingredients in the same way that a kaleidoscope plays with shapes and colours. So they went for kaleidoscope with this one, but they changed the C and the K in the name around just for a little bit of fun actually. Hence you've got the odd spelling of kaleidoscope for this one. But yeah, really nice little brewery, these guys. I do hope that I can continue to review their beers quite regularly because I was impressed with the Purple Amalgam, and as I say, fingers crossed this one carries on in the same vein. And we do have another one that you'll see reviewed in a couple of videos time, but this is the one I wanted to do first because I wanted to have this beer originally when I had the Purple Amalgam as well. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Caleidoskope Brewing Company for the moment. As I said, these guys are very new on the scene. So if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. You can go and visit Peders in Copenhagen, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on with it then and see how we go. So yeah, this one, as you can see, the artwork is really quite nice. It's fairly similar in a way to the artwork we had with Purple Amalgam. quite sort of modernist and minimalist at the same time, I guess you could say. But there is the Caleidoskope Brewing Company symbol on the top there, which I do think is very, very nice. Yeah, really pretty cool actually. One of the things I find a little bit odd actually is that I've not seen these guys in Kiosk in Copenhagen. You know, very, very good beer shop, but I do wonder why these beers aren't available there, considering they are a Copenhagen brewery. So yeah, that's definitely a little bit curious. Maybe they don't brew enough to actually put the beers into Kiosk at the moment, but yeah, that is a little bit of a shame. But as I say, I bought this one through Glassbanken, so it's kind of curious that they have them on a Swedish web shop, but not in you know, one of the better known Danish beer shops. Maybe it's just a connection, somebody knows somebody or something like that. But yeah, lovely presented beer. This one, a 440ml can once again. Just to give you the stats of this beer, this one is hopped with Amarillo, Citra and Mosaic. So Amarillo, we know, the original big oily orange, high alpha acid hop, about 12% if I remember rightly. Citra, we know, lovely juicy mangoes, lots of complexities. Mosaic, you know, kind of brighter tangerines if you like. Both of those around 13-14% alpha acid, and then it's dry hopped once again with that same combination. It's got a malt base of Golden Promise, malted oats and carapils, and the yeast in this one is WLP 066. So yeah, I think this one should be pretty damn good. Quite a solid backbone to this beer, both from the malt and the hops. So let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. Definitely very curious to see my second beer from Caleidoskope Brewing Company. At 7.5%, I think this one is a little bit heavier than the last one we had from these guys, if I remember rightly. But we'll see. We'll see. Look at that. Damn. The haze on that is crazy. That's almost a little bit green. That's craziness actually. Oh, but I'll tell you something, you can smell the aroma of this one straight away. You can smell the aroma of this. That is one of the weirdest coloured IPAs I've come across so far actually. The colour of that is just absolutely crazy. Yeah, that is pretty damn nice actually. You know, that's almost as pale. It looks like a pineapple and lime juice or something like that. It's yeah, the colour is quite an unusual one actually. Quite a strange colour I have to say. So yeah, an almost kind of lime tinted pineapple type colour this one. It's almost like a green. It seems a bit weird and a bit of a negative thing to say that it's almost vomit coloured, but it's not far away from that, vomit or bogey coloured. Yeah. So I have to say the colour of this one is a little bit surprising. It's not often that I say that when it comes to beer reviews, but yeah, the colour of this beer is really quite random actually. I didn't expect that from it. I thought it would be a kind of quite bright yellow or something, to be honest with you. I thought it would be quite bright yellow, or you know, a kind of you know, just a sort of standard one. I've never seen a New England IPA that is quite this colour before. I've had very, very pale ones, but not one that has this almost kind of bogey coloured tint to, or boogers as the Americans would call it. That's very, very unusual. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, it poured to have about a half finger of a frothy white head. That's fading away just to be a thin kind of foamy layer there. There's a nice thicker foamy ring around the edge of the glass. There's one or two bigger bubbles sticking there too. But yeah, one or two smaller bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few of them going up towards the bottom of that head as well. But as I say, the appearance of this beer is pretty interesting, I have to say. I've never come across a New England IPA quite this colour before, and this one, I have to say, for a 7.5%er, this one has an impressive level of haze to it. You're not going to come across many 7.5%ers that are quite as hazy as this one. So yeah, that is pretty damn impressive. Yeah, this is crazy, but the thing is, as I always tell you with these New England IPAs, the higher you go up the alcohol scale with these, the more oats and wheat you tend to have in the beer, thus the more hazy it gets. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on then. The colour of this one did kind of catch me off guard, but it's not the first time I've had a New England IPA that's quite a strange colour. So let's look at the aroma then and see how we go. Ooh, it certainly does smell very good, I have to say that. Yeah, for me, it is really nicely done in that sense. You've got a lovely kind of big, you do have a nice kind of big bready malt base to this one, lots of kind of soft white bread in there. If you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply, you've got a good kind of, you do have a very, very nice kind of bitey, wheaty sort of thing to this beer, which I really, really like. Yeah, the aroma that comes out of this beer, I think, is very It's very, very nicely done. And this one I think has been quite intensely dry hopped, and I think I'm having it quite fresh as well, because you can really smell just the you can really smell the sort of dustiness from the dry hopping in this one. I've always felt that with New England IPAs, you've got to let them sit in the can for maybe 10 days or so after the canning date or whatever, just to let the kind of green almost drop out of the beer a little bit, because sometimes you can just get a little bit too much green in them. So you need to let the New England IPAs mellow out in a way that you don't normally need to do for the West Coasters. But yeah, the malt base here is nice. The more that your nose adjusts to this one, you start to get a bit more of the kind of oaty creaminess out of it. There is a wee bit of that Werther's Original kind of butter candy sort of thing in the middle of the nose here with this beer as well. Maybe a wee touch of a biscuit, but I'm definitely finding the more that I smell of this beer, the kind of sweeter and smoother the malty side of it becomes actually. So I really like that about this, I have to say. The malty backbone of this beer is very, very nicely done. But yeah, a little bit of bitier wheat in there, soft white bread kind of forming the backbone. So yeah, the malty side of this beer gets a thumbs up from me. On the hoppy side of things then, green side of the hops, there is a little touch of earthiness to this one. When you're using Mosaic, it is going to give you that, but you get quite a big floral aromaticity out of this one, and it's almost got a bit of a spicy edge to it, to be honest. And you know, from these hops, again, you're going to get that. Amarillo's about 12% alpha acid, Citra and Mosaic are about 13 or 14. So yeah, you are going to get a hell of a lot of, you know, hop. You are going to get a lot of floral aromaticity out of this beer, but there is a nice bit of lighter grassiness to this one as well. But I mean, the green side of the hops for me really, the green side of the beer really leans towards that kind of big floral aromatic part of the spectrum. So yeah, it's quite nice in that sense. It's not overly spicy, but you do get quite a nice little bit of spiciness out of it, I have to say. But yeah, green side of the hops, I think, having a little bit of that floral aromaticity, it matches the slightly bitier wheaty note that the beer has, but also the softer grassiness matches the kind of the more oaty and slightly sweet side of the beer too. But the fruity side of this one is actually really quite interesting. It's not as orange leaning as you might think, you know, going by the name. It's actually got a good bit of balance to it. So yeah, you do have there's a wee touch of a kind of slightly pungenty passion fruit to this one. There's a wee bit of mango in there. That's the Citra that's going to give you that. But then you've got a good level of just, you know, juicy oranges in there. You can smell the slightly more straight up orange from the Amarillo, but you also get that lighter kind of tangerine note out of the Mosaic as well. So I mean, this beer, if you know these hops, it is kind of giving you what you'd expect. I think on the fruity side of things too, I think the oranges do, the oiliness of the Amarillo, I think, really rounds the beer out quite nicely. The Citra definitely does take the back, it does sit in the back seat compared to the Mosaic and the Mosaic and the sorry, to the Mosaic and the Amarillo. Brain's not working there. But yeah, it does, the more you smell of this one, it does start to lean towards that kind of orangey side of the beer. So yeah, I think you have to spend just a wee bit of time and ponder over the aroma of this one to really kind of appreciate exactly what's going on here. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm noticing the colour, it's maybe my eyes maybe adjusting to it a little bit. This is a beer, you can see it, it seems to be one that adapts a little bit. It does actually seem a little bit more yellow now that I've you know, I've been looking at it for a little while. So yeah, maybe I'm being a reactionist in this video, who knows. But yeah, let's have a little look at the flavour of this one then. The aroma of it's very nice. As I always say, take a bit of time to ponder that over, but we are going to taste this one now. So this one is the Orange Dots, a New England IPA coming in at 7.5% ABV from Caleidoskope Brewing Co in Amager to the south of Copenhagen. You can try these beers at Peder's Bar in the centre of the city. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. Yeah, that's really quite nicely done again, actually. It's definitely, I remember this one's a little bit more juicy and wet than I remember the Purple Amalgam being. That's really interesting. I'm going to say straight away, that is a solid New England IPA. I like this one for sure. Thumbs up to Caleidoskope. What I will say is it actually feels a little bit lighter in the body than the Purple Amalgam did, and when I was checking my notes for the Purple Amalgam before, with the components of the beer and stuff, this one actually has less malt varieties in it, so this beer I think is considerably lighter bodied almost. and a little bit more slick, I think, if I could say that, compared to the Purple Amalgam. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know which of I think the Purple Amalgam and this one are their two more kind of like almost core IPAs. I think they're two of the older beers that they do, because I'm sure that when I reviewed from them before, it was only like maybe 5 or 6 beers that they produced in total, but these days, as I say, they've got 22, so maybe the Orange Dots and the Purple Amalgam are the two kind of core beers. So this one's meant to be a lighter, kind of slicker New England IPA, whereas the Purple Amalgam is meant to be the more kind of full-bodied one. I'm not sure about that, but regardless, they're both very, very nice beers, so thumbs up to Caleidoskope. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys scale up a little bit, because I think when they do, they will do very, very well. Curious to try a few different styles from them as well. Because as I say, I think the two beers that we've reviewed so far have been New England's, and the third one that we have as well is also in New England. No sediment left in the can with this one, but yeah, it's certainly very, very nicely done, as I say. So let's try and break down the flavour of this beer and see how we go. So yeah, straight away with this beer, you can feel that nice sort of white bready, wheaty sort of thing, that just blankets the middle of your tongue. As you go onto the back third of your palate, I think the wheat comes out a lot more of this one. Compared to what the Aroma would have you believe this beer, this one is actually quite a bit more wheaty leaning and bitey, I think, than the Aroma would have you believe. But in fairness, like the Aroma did, you do get more flavours evolving out of this one as you let the flavour kind of sit and develop. So this is an interesting one. This is definitely a beer I think you've got to sit and ponder over a little bit. But I will say, I can tell just from the flavours in here, I'm drinking this one pretty damn fresh, because you're still getting a good bit of dustiness from the that kind of hop dusty sort of thing from the dry hopping in this one. But I like that about it. It's nice to have. I've not had that in a beer in a wee while, so it's a little bit of a change of pace. But yeah, very, very solid beer, this one, as I said. But yeah, pardon me, on the back third of your palate, you get that thicker, kind of more wheaty breadiness there. There's a bit of the wheaty bitiness at the back, but as you move further forward on that back third of your tongue, you can feel the wheat just smoothing out a little bit, and then as you reach the middle third of your palate, it just drops off. You know, the thickness of the beer just kind of drops off a little bit, and then as you go further forward, in this one, onto that middle third of your palate, you've got a nice sort of soft, white bready base in there. You can feel a little bit of the more bitey, wheaty notes underneath, but I think the white bready note in the middle of your palate just kind of softens out a little bit, and that goes together very, very nicely. Yeah, in terms of the kind of white bready qualities of the beer, it's really, yeah, it's just really nice and soft and fluffy. The oats are nowhere near as prominent in this beer as I thought they might have been, in fairness. I mean, in the middle third of your palate, you can feel there is a little bit of oaty smoothness there, and I think in the very middle of your tongue as well, you do get a little bit of a kind of Werther's Originally type flavour out of this one, but those are quite minimal compared to the bready side of the beer and the kind of wheaty bitiness that this one has. You know, I do remember as I say, I remember the Purple Amalgam just being a little bit sort of just felt a little bit thicker than this one actually. So it's this beer maybe more creamy is the right word for the Purple Amalgam. So yeah, this one, the thing that really just distinguishes these two beers would just be the malt base. I think it'd be the malt base, and then obviously some of the fruity flavours. But again, this one is quite nice. I mean, if you want a more wheaty, bitey New England IPA, then this is the one. This is one of the ones that you should have a go at, I think. But yeah, this one is quite interesting. I do wonder actually if I am drinking this just a little bit early, but we won't hold that against it, you know. It's I think maybe this beer needs just a little touch more time to kind of mellow out and things, but it's in very, very good condition at the moment. I'm just the hoppy dustiness and things like that. I'm getting some of it in the middle of the palate too, so I think that's usually a sign for me that the beer just needs a little bit more time to kind of mellow out, if you like. Maybe we're drinking this one very, very fresh, but yeah, it is, the malty side of this one I think is quite nice, so definitely a little bit more kind of light and sort of white bready in that sense too, but the malt side, the malty base of the beer gets a thumbs up from me. Let's look at the hoppy side of the beer then. Back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of hoppy, of kind of earthiness in there. That'll be the mosaic that's giving you that. As you move further forward along the side of the palate, the earthiness spreads forward a wee bit, then you start to get a nice big floral aromaticity on the front corners of your palate. Then around the front curve of the tongue, the beer is more is kind of distinctly lighter and more grassy in my mind. So yeah, the grassy side of this beer I think is very, very nice on this one. I think that adds a good balance to the beer, and in fairness I think when you progress further into the aftertaste you do notice a little bit more of the oaty side of the beer and a little bit more of the and a little bit more of the kind of this little bit of sweetness that's in there, but the grassy side of this beer is pretty good. I mean, remember, when it comes to hops, you'll get more bitterness out of the hop if you add it earlier on in the boil. You've got a trade-off over the period of the boil, whereas if you add the hops early on, it's more bitterness. But then as you gradually progress on, the bitterness level of the hop is going to drop, and then you'll start to get things in flavour of more things in terms of flavour and aroma coming out of it. So in that sense, it is really quite nice. So yeah, I like how this beer goes together in that sense. The fruity side of this beer I think is really well done as well, so we'll focus on that now. As I always say, on the front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice fruity, those nice fruity juicy esters just rolling their way out of the beer, and I really like how this one goes together in that sense. I think this beer is very, very nicely done. What do we say about this? It does have a wee bit of that more pungent tropical fruit. If you go to the back of the front third of your palate there, you do have a wee touch of a stronger kind of passion fruity note to this one. That would be the citron. As you move further forward, you can get a wee bit of the mango sort of thing. But as I say, in the middle, almost in that border region between the front third of your palate and the middle third of your palate, I'm getting some of that kind of dustiness, that green dustiness from the dry hopping there. But yeah, as you move further forward from that, there's a little bit of mango, and as you reach the front half of that front third of your tongue, that's when you start to get the more orangey notes out of this one, and you really see why this beer is called Orange Dots. So underneath you can feel the nice kind of oily orange from the Amarillo, but on top of that you start to get the lighter sort of mosaic tangerine, actually. So the fruity side of this beer is quite quirky in that sense as well. I do like that about it. And I think the further that you go into the aftertaste with this one, I think the oiliness actually comes out a little bit more. I think it leans to more, I think that the Amarillo flavour pushes its way up a little bit more, but at the same time you can still feel that nice juiciness from the mosaic. So yeah, I do like that, the fruity part of this beer. Yeah, I mean, overall I think this is a very, very nice beer. Do I prefer it to the Purple Amalgam? I honestly can't remember, to be quite honest with you, but as a standard kind of New England IPA, I think this one is pretty solidly done. Had I known exactly how old this beer was, I probably would have maybe would have left it in the can for like another week or something before drinking it, because I think I am drinking this just a little touch too fresh. I do think, as I said, I think the New Englands need a little bit of time to mellow out in a way that the West Coasters don't. But it is a very, very solid beer, this one, and I suspect if I let it rest a little bit more, you would just get the fruits coming out and being a little bit more juicy, and then you maybe get a bit more kind of smoothness out of the malt base in this one. So this is a good point to shift on to the mouthfeel of the beer. So overall, I would say that this beer is kind of bottom end to full bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. Like I said, I think this one is a little bit slicker than the Purple Amalgam was. There's not as many components to the malt base in this one. So this one for me definitely comes across as a little bit slicker by comparison, definitely. It's got a wee bit more kind of oiliness and wetness to it, whereas I think the Purple Amalgam was just a little bit more kind of creamy, if that makes sense. But yeah, in terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this one's maybe about 40 IBUs. I think this one does have a wee bit more bitterness to it, but that may well just be the dustiness from the dry hopping. And again, this is why I say you need to let these beers mellow out just a little bit, so that you get the proper juiciness from the New England IPA. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer, it is quite, in a sense, it is quite juicy. You've got a wee bit of oiliness from it as well, and yeah, I do like how that side of it goes together too. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer I think is very, very nicely done. It does lean a little bit more towards the orangey side the further you go into the aftertaste, but there is a wee bit of that tropical pungency as well, a bit of passion fruit from the citra kind of giving you that edge to it. But again, another very, very solid beer from Caleidoskope Brewing Company, and you know, I do think these guys have got a very, very solid future ahead of them on the basis of what they're producing at the moment, so long may that continue. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Orange Dots, a 7.5% New England IPA with Amarillo, Citra and Mosaic from Caleidoskope Brewing Company in Amager in at the south of Copenhagen. Really enjoyed this one. I think I drank it a little bit fresh in fairness. So yeah, I think one thing I would like to see a number of breweries do is do a drink by date. I think I would like breweries to kind of test some of their batches every day, and you know, just see like which day how many days do we think this should be drunk on, you know, put a little drink by date on it or something like that, because as I say, this is a lovely beer, but I think it's just a little touch too fresh at the moment, if that makes sense. And it's strange to say that about a beer, but this is something I think is quite unique to the New Englands. I think you need to have just a little bit of you need to let them mellow out just a little bit. But yeah, it's a lovely beer, this one, and I would recommend that you try it, and try some of the other things from this brewery as well. The Purple Amalgam's a very, very solid beer, and I'm curious to see what the other one has in store for us as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Orange Dots from Caleidoskope Brewing Company in Amager at Copenhagen across in Denmark. 7.5% New England IPA, and I certainly look forward to seeing what this brewery are going to do in the future. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Caleidoskope Brewing Company as well. We will return to these guys at some point soon, and yeah, check out this brewery if you do get the chance. Danish beer is great. If you get the chance to try some of these Danish things, then I highly, highly recommend that you do. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out this brewery, check out my social media, and keep enjoying the reviews.